Awesome. Welcome, everyone. This is Breaking Through the Ceiling, going from 5 million to 10 million. And today we're going to talk about the topic that every single real estate agent in the world wants to know about, which is how to double your production. I don't think there is one call that we have with an agent, whether it's an agent who's in a recruiting conversation, an agent at our firm, whatever it is, that the goal is always to double production. I don't care what your number is. If your number was 1 million and now you want to go to 2, or your number was 5, you go to 10, or your number was 15 and you want to go to 30, everyone wants to double your production because at the end of the day, that's what we need to do in order to start making more profit, right? Because our time at the end of the day is kind of a fixed cost, right? It costs us a certain amount of money to live. We've got expenses. Our business kind of operates with certain fixed expenses as well. And so if we really, really want to start getting the leverage of being an entrepreneur, the best way to increase your profit is simply do more revenue, right? So what we're going to do today is talk about what you're going to need, no matter what your position is, no matter what your production is. These are the tools and tricks you're going to need in order to double your production over the next 12 months. And so before we get into that, I just want to do a quick little thought exercise for everybody. So think about this year, think about your last 12 months, think about whatever period of time you've been tracking for your production. And now think about, what are your goals for next year? Are they doubling? Hopefully. Is it tripling? Is it doing our first transaction? Just take 5 seconds and really think about, what are your goals for next year? And now that you're thinking about that, what I want you to do is think about, what would life feel like if you don't hit those goals? What would change for you and your plans for yourself, your friends, your family, if these goals that we have for ourselves and our business do not get met? What is it that we're going to lose out on? What is it that we're not going to be able to afford? What stress is it that we're trying to get rid of that we're not going to be able to kind of just leave in the past? And so doubling your production is often not about hitting a goal. It's about avoiding pain. And today, what we want to do is talk through some very basic things that you can do to ensure that if you do things consistently, starting today, over the next several months, you will not be in a position where these feelings of pain or this wondering around not hitting your goal is going to be there. And so why don't we just jump into it? If you're new to Blue Pebble training, this is a relatively interactive thing. So what I would ask you to do is just raise your hand. If you have a question, we're happy to go through it. A lot of the things we're going to be talking about today are things that we've covered as part of our training. And we're just going to continue to focus on those main key points as we kind of move forward. So who am I really quick? My name is Jared Frost. I'm the employment broker of Blue Pebble Homes. And, I've been in real estate for, Matt, was it going to be about 10 years now? And I think the thing that was interesting for me that I just definitely didn't expect as I got into it was that pretty quickly, when you start doing 6, 7, 8 transactions a year, you run out of time. I don't know what it is. It's like transaction a month, maybe a transaction, 2 transactions a quarter. For some reason, whenever you kind of get to that level, that's always the first level of which your systems are going to be tested. Because up until that level where, you can do 1 transaction a quarter, you don't really need a system. You don't need to have habits. You don't need to have necessarily consistency to do that. You can kind of like fly off the seat of your pants every once a quarter. You pick up a client, you kind of drop everything, you go back to lead genning, and we're always on this cycle of, serving the business, not having any business, serving the business, not having any business. And so in order for us to break through, oftentimes it's not about getting more leads or getting more at-bats. The issue for most people, as it was for me, is how do we create more time out of our day? Because you're not forced into this, system consistency kind of thing until you get to a point where you're so busy that now all of a sudden you need to have it. And so today, what we're going to do is start talking about what does leverage mean for you and your business, and how do we get more leverage? Because oftentimes doubling your production is not about getting more leads. We all know the number of people we need to know in order to achieve these goals that we wrote down for ourselves 10 minutes ago. It's about having more leverage. How do we multiply ourselves? How do we amplify our time? Because at the end of the day, if we have more time and we can do things in a more organized way, we are going to convert at a higher ratio. And so when you talk about converting, we often think about what's called the production multiplier. So your leads, in order to get leads, you need to be a magnet, right? You got to be talking to people, you got to be attracting people, you got to be attracting energy and all this stuff, right? But getting from leads to closings is not just about the number of at-bats that you have, right? Oftentimes, most people have the at-bats. You're out in networking appointments, you're out having coffees, you're calling your friends and family. You guys are already doing a lot of activities. The question is, how do we get these at-bats into what we would call conversions, or how do we go from these nurtures to then active clients, getting to that handshake point? And then how do we then, once we get busy, stay consistent? So if we think about our production is actually more than just leads. It's actually this kind of like crazy mathematical formula, and I'm not sure that multiplying is the right way to go, but hey, I'm not the math guy, but the way we think about it is production equals leads by conversion by consistency. If you have a lot of leads, you're in a really good spot for production, but without conversion and consistency, you're never going to hit the production goals that you get. If you have a lot of leads or let's say you can convert really well, but you don't have a lot of leads, then you're never going to hit the production goals. So you really need all three of those things, and especially consistency, because every single agent that I've ever met who is on that, in that trying to break through the ceiling of whatever their business is, it's that they get too busy to do the thing that they know they need to do, which is fill that pipeline back in. And so you might be consistent for a month in your lead gen, and then all of a sudden you have 3 or 4 active clients. Oh gosh, I don't have time for this anymore, and I drop it. And then in 60 days, once I close all 4 of those clients, what happens? I don't have any more clients because I haven't been lead genning and filling back in my hopper. So there is if you're not doing this every day, if you're not doing it consistently, if you're not converting and you're not generating leads, you're not going to be hitting this production. And so today, we're going to be talking about plans and systems and actionable things that you can do to get from 5 to 10 million, 10 to 20 million, 20 to 40, because everyone works hard. Every single real estate agent, if you're in this industry and you're taking it seriously, we all work really hard. We all put in a lot of effort, right? We're not questioning anybody's effort on this call, because if you're on this call, you are already taking that step that you need to do to kind of get better. We acknowledge there's a problem. We acknowledge there's a goal, and we're trying to figure out how to get from A to B. That's the first step you need to take, right? The difference, though, between a $5 million producer and a $10 million producer, or a 10 to 20, 20 to 40, is frankly the plan and the system that all these producers do, right? Everyone can work hard. Those people that have a plan and do things consistently are going to be working less hard to achieve kind of the same level or double the production or get more production in their business. So one of the first and the most important lessons of doubling your production is time blocking, right? If you look at most agents who are not closing 1 deal a month, 90% of the time, it goes back to the fact that they are not sticking to appointments with themselves. So let's just take a quick step back. If you had an appointment with one of your referral partners, let's say they are a financial advisor or a probate attorney or someone who's sending you a lot of business, maybe it's a builder, would you ever stand that person up? If they were going to send you 10 deals a year, would you just forget about the coffee and not email them? Or would you not reschedule that appointment? There's no shot. If you had someone who's going to give you 10 deals a year, you'd show up to that 15 minutes early. You'd have the coffee ready to go. You would be planned. You'd have your notebook right there. Aren't you sending yourself, or have the opportunity to send yourself, 10 to 12 deals a year? So why would you ever stand up an appointment for yourself? Right? Time blocking is really just that. When we put a meeting in our calendar and we're time blocking, all we're doing is making an appointment with ourselves. And aren't we the most important person in our business? So I think everyone needs to take a quick step back and think about, do you have your scheduled time blocked out? Do you have your meeting times booked? Do you have your lead gen booked? Do you have your client follow-up booked? Maybe research that you need to do, showings or other things you need. Is this all in your calendar a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks out? If it's not, this is the first and the easiest thing that you could possibly do in order to start down the path of doubling your production. At the end of the day, if you're able just to protect 2 hours of lead gen time per day, you will be well on your way to getting the leads and staying consistent. So that really just comes down to conversion at that point, right? And it's really incredible what happens when you actually do time block, right? Because if you knew that you had a meeting coming up with yourself, okay, so tomorrow morning from 9 to 11, I'm going to be lead genning. What would that do to you and your business in terms of your routine the day before? When I have a 2-hour block of lead gen in my schedule, it's not sit down at my computer, maybe go on, starting my lead gen block, going to my CRM, figuring out who I need to call that day, carefully curating a list of people, maybe grabbing a cup of coffee, and all of a sudden I'm 45 minutes in, I make my first dial. Oh, I've got to talk to Susie. She won't hang up. It's 30 minutes later. And now all of a sudden what happened? I've got 20 minutes left to get through my rest of my lead gen because I've got clients in the afternoon. I've got all this stuff. And so what lead genning or what time blocking does, and actually having that appointment in your calendar will do, is it should force you to prepare for that, right? If you knew that you had to make 2 hours of calls the next day and you were basically paid per dial, what are some of the things you would do differently? You would probably have the list of people that you're going to call that next morning ready to go the night before so that you're not wasting this precious time in your meeting with yourself trying to figure out who you're going to call. You might also, if you knew that you had to be lead genning every day, as you should be, then maybe whatever special or item of value that you're thinking about selling or talking to people about that week, you would probably have that figured out maybe a week or two in advance. If you're selling, let's say you're trying to make contacts because you're referring over, let's say a vendor or an HVAC person because you're trying to do furnace inspections before it gets cold, you would have to figure that out a week or two in advance, right? You couldn't just call up the HVAC guy as part of that lead gen block, say, hey, can I sell a coupon if someone comes over to you? And then you get back on the phone. It doesn't work that way. So one of the best things that time blocking does, in addition to forcing you to spend the time, is it forces you to then also structure your mornings and structure your evenings and structure the rest of your week. You will notice a difference because your business will stop feeling reactive. It will feel planned out. It will feel less stressful because if you're planning in advance and you have a plan, all that comes down to is executing. We lose time when we have to react to something. How much more inefficient is it to get a call from someone, have to drop everything you're doing to figure it out, and then you go and do it, versus if you had known that call was coming in, you already had all that stuff ready to go. And so when the call comes, here's the answer, here you go, I can get on with the rest of my day. It's no different in lead gen. If you're organized on the front end, you will be more organized during, and you will be more organized afterward. The other thing about lead gen too is that it encourages extremely strong database nurturing. If you're forcing yourself to lead gen 2 hours a day, you do not typically have an excuse to not touch your database at least 4 to 6 times a year. So even if you're hand dialing, let's just go through the numbers really quick. If you're hand dialing, you can make typically between 6 to 8 contacts an hour. That's kind of the average that we've always seen on our team going back the last 10 years. If you're using an auto dialer, you can get that up to about 10 to 12. Well, let's just say you're hand dialing 6 to 8 contacts an hour. So 2 hours of lead gen, you're talking about somewhere between 12 to 16 contacts a day. Over the course of a quarter, you have, 20 by 3 is 60. You've got 60 lead gen sessions approximately per quarter. And if you're making, let's say, 15 contacts a day times 60, what is that? That's about 900 contacts a quarter. So until your database gets to the point where you have over 1,000 people in it, you will be able to talk to everyone once a quarter if you're consistent with lead gen. Now, do you need 1,000 people to hit a $10 million production level? Absolutely not. How many deals is $10 million? These days in Denver, it's probably like 15 to 16, right? And even if you think about all the old systems, like the Keller systems and the ferry systems and all this stuff, you would typically expect to get one closing per every 10 to 20 people in your database. So if you need 20 closings, you only need 400 people in your database. And you can make 900 contacts a quarter. So you could actually talk to everyone twice a quarter and still have plenty of time to do this. Where most people lose their business and not get from 5 to 10 million is they do not nurture their database. They're always thinking the next deal, the next person is going to be out there, when really they've got a pile of gold sitting in front of them, and you just have to be consistent about it. So sticking to your database, sticking to time blocking, that will help you go. And as we think about our other habits, I want you guys to ask yourselves this question. Think about the top real estate person you know. Maybe it's you. Cool. If it's not you, hopefully it's not. Hopefully we all know a bigger producer or better, maybe not better real estate agent, but a bigger producer, if you will, than us. So just sit for 1 second and ask yourself the question. If that person duplicated your habits, would they double your production? If they missed all those time blocked appointments they had with themselves to lead gen, would they double your production? If they didn't take care of their time and manage it properly and met with all the useless contacts and networking you were doing just to stay busy, would they double your production? Because very rarely are the skills that these top producers have so much better than you in terms of conversion. Converting leads happens for pretty much everybody at the same ratio. The issue for top producers is that they're doubling production simply because they have systems and habits in order that they will always be successful. They've tuned these in over the course of years, maybe decades, and they know that if they go to the same thing over and over again, they're going to be successful. And so what I'm going to challenge everyone to do today, as part of homework, if you will, is start thinking about a daily operating system. So what does that mean? It means when you wake up in the morning, what do? Do you just lounge around, watch TV, maybe go on CNBC, check your 401k, grab a cup of coffee? Like, what are you doing to put yourself in a position of success for the day? One of the best things you can do after you've time blocked all your calendar out for the next several weeks is you can create a daily operating system or a daily routine, especially that happens in the morning, so that by the end of this routine, you're in the right headspace and have the right energy to go attack the day and make the most of it. So we've reviewed this a few different times at Blue Pebble, and I think a lot of people on this call, I'm looking at Noah, have a variety of different things that they'll do. And at the end of the day, what this does is getting into a routine every single morning will help you so that, no matter what happens through this routine or whatever you're doing, as a part of it, at the end of it, you're ready to go. So think about, get your coffee, get your breakfast. I think it's kind of hard to work when you don't have energy. You woke up and you just kind of immediately, how often are we going to wake up and then immediately get on our computer and start dialing? For me, that doesn't really happen very often, right? So for me, I need to kind of warm up to my day. I grab a cup of coffee. I'll check the stock market because I'm a nerd, right? Then what else are you going to do? Maybe you want to go into some affirmations. Maybe you want to review your calendar. Maybe you want to review your call list for that day. Maybe you want to review your database. Maybe you want to review all the activities you took with your clients the next day and figure out what your plan is that day. Whatever it is, just start doing something. It's a routine. Okay. I know we have at least a couple golfers on here. So I'm just going to pick on golfers for a second. When you look at pro golfers, they have what's called a pre-shot routine. They don't just get up to the ball and hit it. They take a second, they talk to their caddy, they figure out what the conditions are, how far they are, where the wind is. They'll step up to their ball, they'll see where it's laying in the ground, they might take a couple practice swings, and then they're going to hit the ball. Think about professional baseball players. They go into the batter's box the exact same time. They have the exact same walk-up song most of the time, right? You always see them like messing with their gloves and tapping the bat and doing all these things, right? Professionals have routines. Steph Curry just put out a commercial where he talks about his routine, how he gets the ball. And when he walks onto the court for the first time, he gets a ball from the same security guard every single time. And that security guard sends him the ball or passes it to him in the same way to the same spot on the court, so that every single shot he takes the first time he gets onto a professional game is from the same spot on the court. And what this does is it resets you into a place where once you get there, it is go time. So why are we treating ourselves and our business any differently than any other professional that's out there? Professional athletes have pre-game warm-up routines. Do you think lawyers go into an appointment with someone without knowing without knowing or researching the issue that they're about to talk about? So why would we as real estate agents do anything different? So the first thing you can do is really start getting into a morning routine. And the best part is once you get out of that morning routine, it will make getting into your 2 hours of lead gen a day so much easier. Because 2 hours of lead gen a day can translate to millions of dollars of production a year, right? And for top producers who are doing at least 10, if not 20, 30, or 40 deals a year, they are consistently sticking to their 2 hours of lead gen a day. That has to become a non-negotiable for you. So the question though becomes, all right, Jared, I'm starting out new. I've got 50 people in my database. So I really want to be lead gen. I really want to come up with this routine. But realistically, if I'm making 16 contacts a day, I'm done in a week. So what do I do the other, 8 weeks out of a quarter? 11 weeks out of a quarter. That's a great question. A lot of agents who are stuck are getting their leads from only one place. The concept is diversification. So if you're an investor in the stock market and you have a retirement account, if you wanted to put all of your money into NVIDIA, would your financial advisor tell you to do that? Probably not. They might say, okay, Jared, well, look, I really appreciate you like NVIDIA. Maybe we put like 10% of your money into NVIDIA and let's figure out what to do with the other 90%. And why do they do that? Because when you're putting all of your eggs in one basket, the risk to you goes up exponentially. What happens if it doesn't work out? Oh, shoot. Are you willing to wager your entire annual income on one thing? In what industry does that happen? But for some reason in residential real estate, it happens all the time. And the issue is that, frankly, it's a comfortability, it's a comfort issue, right? If you're willing to get into real estate and if you're willing to prospect and lead gen, most people are most comfortable doing that with their friends and family and people they already know. We would call that METs. This is this center column right here, right? It should be easy to call your friends and family, talk to them about real estate, talk to them about work, and generate business. That is a really easy thing to do. Should be. And so what happens when you call all your cousins and all your aunts and uncles and all your friends in town, blah, 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 and you still don't have any business? What are you going to do? We got to start thinking about other baskets in which to put our eggs. And so at Blue Pebble, we actually preach what we would call a 3-pronged business plan or approach to lead generation. And the best part about it is that it creates diversification for you, and it creates movement where if you're stuck on one of these things, you always have other options for these lead gen blocks. Because when you make that lead gen block in that appointment in your calendar, You can't stand yourself up because you didn't have anything else to do. You're the entrepreneur. You're your business owner. If business owners just sat down and didn't do anything because they didn't know what to do, like what would happen to most businesses? So here, we're going to give you a couple other ideas for where you can go to get new deals. So cold prospecting is a really easy one. And I'm not just talking about picking up the phone and dialing expireds, right? This is open houses that you can do. This is farming that you can do. This is door knocking. This is geo prospecting around one of your listings. This is calling FSBOs, trying to find a house for that buyer that can't seem to find anything. At the end of the day, if we want to increase the people that we know, aren't we going to have to reach out to people that we don't? How do you ever get to know someone new? If our goal is to have as many sphere people as possible, so we just spent all day calling our friends and family and those people that we had relationships with, and we need to grow that bucket in order to achieve our business goals, how are we going to do that without talking to new people? And so one of the most efficient ways you can do that in real estate or any other sales business is frankly cold prospecting. Put yourself out there in the community, put yourself out there in front of people who have raised their hand saying they're thinking about buying or selling, and just start having good conversations, right? The third thing, and this is something that no one talks about, and so I'm really glad that everyone on this call is here today because this is frankly our secret sauce. And this is thinking about real estate outside of the traditional models of what we would call business to consumer sales, right? So in most real estate businesses, we are what are called B2C or business to consumer sales. We are the business. We call our leads who are buying the product, and then we will interact with them. That is a business to consumer sales interaction. What everyone misses out on, I would say 99% of people in real estate miss out on, is that there is a huge business to business or B2B referral opportunity. So what do I mean by that? Well, real estate tends to happen, or real estate transactions tend to happen when life events also occur, right? So kids are born, kids are growing up, kids go to school, downsizing, empty nesting and downsizing, divorce, death. It always happens around life events. So are there any other professions, hypothetically, that might deal with people who are also going through life events that don't necessarily deal with real estate? The easy one for us are probate attorneys or estate attorneys, right? If someone dies, typically, and there's a real estate is part of an estate, real estate assets part of the estate, you're going to need to sell that. And even if the heirs want to try and rent it out, 90% of the time they turn around after a year and sell it anyway because they want the cash, they don't want to deal with the management, whatever. So I would say most of the time when someone passes, there's always a real estate transaction to be done. And who are the people who are getting called first about that? It's probably not you. Legally speaking, it's not going to be you because you wouldn't be able to sell the property without being named a personal representative. So who gets called first? That person's a trusted estate attorney. Does that trusted estate attorney ever transact real estate as an agent? 99.9% of the time, no. And they also need someone to help out their client, don't they? So what if instead of having to cold call all of our new people all the time, we just went out and created relationships with half a dozen trusted estate attorneys? If every trusted estate attorney, let's say, does 4 estate transactions a year, and you're on their rotation, maybe they have 3 people they work with, wouldn't it be an expectation that you probably get at least 1 lead per year from each of these people? If they've got 4 deals to refer and they've got 3 agents to refer them to, I would say the expected value of you getting 1 deal is pretty good, right? And if you had 6 of those people, isn't that 6 expected transactions a year? And you only have to talk to 6 people because you're not trying to find the client. They're doing that for you, right? They're just going to refer you whenever their client needs something. That's business to business sales. You are selling to the business that ends up selling to the consumer. And so if we had to have 20 people per sphere or cold prospecting method in order to close a deal, and we want to close 6 deals, isn't that 120 people that we would have to keep in touch with 4 to 6 times a year? That's a lot compared to 6. And so one of the things that no one ever thinks about is finding these other business partners and referral partners who you can work with and go out and hunt together. Because what are the odds that maybe you're building a relationship with a financial advisor and maybe they have a client who passes? Do you think that they might ask you if you have an estate attorney that you work with? Probably. It's happened to me. And then what's your opportunity? You can refer over the person you're working with. So business to business is all about building a tribe of people who are all out there hunting together. And whatever they hunt and they don't need, they bring it back to the tribe and you guys all sharing it together. So building this amazing crew of like-minded individuals who are out there prospecting other people going through life changes will be one of the most impactful changes that you make to your business, because it minimizes the amount of time you need to spend on the phone. It maximizes your ability to convert, because I promise you, when a lawyer refers a client over to you, you are not selling that client. You're not negotiating on your commission. They're just signing up with you because their lawyer told you you're the best. And so pursuing these business-to-business relationships in conjunction with maintaining relationships in your Met database and also adding new people, that is how you're really going to turbocharge your production. So before we jump into metrics and tracking and all kind of the nerdy numbers stuff, I guess, do we have any other questions, or is there other stuff going? Anything I've talked about that we want to kind of debrief or talk about today? No? All right, cool. Well, let's just jump back into it then. So let's talk about metrics, because this is something that everyone hates. I just got out of a networking meeting this morning, and it's incredible how even CPAs and other people who you would think are very number detail oriented have no clue about their numbers. So why are numbers important? Anyone have a guess? Why numbers are important? No? Can you hear me?
And so they provide data.
Tell me more, no.
I mean, depending on what you're looking at in terms of numbers, whether it's, I think, scaling your business, or you're looking at your conversion rates for leads based off of the output that you're putting out, you can then take those numbers and kind of translate them into what's working, what's not.
Cool. So if we think about I think you're spot on there, right? So if we think about our business as a black box, and we're analyzing how this black box will take things that come in and then push things out of it, right? If we're assessing the wrong things in our if we think the black box is getting different inputs than it actually is, how can we measure what the output is? And isn't human nature to always protect yourself? We always want to be right. We always want to feel good. That's just kind of like how we operate as humans, right? So my guess, and I'm pretty sure it's true, if you didn't track your numbers for an entire month, and you were like, okay, at the end of the month, you're going to track how many hours of lead gen you did, how many dials you made, how many contacts, how many leads, all these things down the chain, my guess is that you would overestimate significantly. And if you're overestimating significantly, what does that mean? It means that you are thinking there needs to be a change, i.e., I did all this work and I got nothing for it, therefore I must be doing something wrong. The problem is, if you're not actually tracking your numbers, you're probably overestimating the amount of stuff you actually did. And maybe the issue is not a skills or black box operation thing. Maybe it's a you thing. Maybe you didn't do the activities that you told yourself you were going to do, and you're just putting it in your mind that you did just to make yourself feel better. So numbers and data will always help give you the foundation to make a better decision. And the best part about tracking a series of numbers every single day is it will help you identify where in the sales process you need to improve. And so the numbers that we track right now on our team are we track the number of hours every single day that we lead gen. We track the number of dials that we make. We track the number of conversations or contacts that we have. A contact, by the way, is not, hey, Joe, it's Jared from Blue Pebble, click. That's not a contact. That's a dial. You got to have a conversation with someone before you can call it a contact. We count new nurturers as new leads, i.e., someone who raises their hand saying they're going to buy or sell or invest in the next 12 months. You know the 5 W's, who they are, what they're trying to do, where they're trying to do it, when they want to do it, and why they're trying to do it. Put yourself in that kind of elementary journalism school, right? You got to know the 5 W's. Otherwise, it's not a story. It's kind of the same thing with a nurture. If you don't know the 5 W's, it doesn't count as a lead. Having Sue tell you that her son Bobby is moving in a year does not mean that you found a lead. You got to get more information than that. Then we also track appointments set. So at some point, you're going to have all these nurtures built up that these nurtures start converting into appointments, right? And so you're going to sit down at the kitchen table, you're going to grab a coffee, you're going to do the real estate thing. And then after you have those appointments, you also have clients taken. And so when you track all these things, the amount of time that you spend, the number of dials you make, the number of conversations, nurtures, appointments, clients, at every single point, you can start getting some really good data, right? You can start getting, okay, well, maybe, oh shoot, I committed to myself that I was going to spend 10 hours of lead gen this week, and it turns out I only spent 5. Well, maybe before we get into that question about well, we didn't get enough business from that 5 hours of lead gen, maybe we should go back and ask ourselves, well, why did we only do 5 hours of lead gen? We made appointments with ourselves for 10 hours. Why did we stand ourselves up for 10 hours? Okay, so I made my lead gen, and no one's picking up. Interesting, we can talk about that. Okay, now I'm having contacts, but Jared, I'm having all these contacts and I'm getting no new nurtures. All right, well, how many nurtures are you getting? Well, I'm getting about 10% of my contacts translate to a nurture. I would say that's pretty good. Because is everyone you talk to going to be ready to buy, sell, or invest in real estate whenever you call them? Probably not. So you can't go into this assuming that every single conversation you have is going to turn into a lead because you just know mathematically that's not true. Only 5% of the people in the country will move any given year right now. So if only 1 out of 20 people are going to move and you talk to 20 people, are you guaranteed to find a lead? Probably not. If you're tracking about 10% of your contacts turn into new nurtures, you're doing pretty well. And now, what happens when you go from nurtures to appointment set? Well, Jared, I have all these nurtures, but I can't seem to get an appointment. What's going on? Well, now we can talk about that. And if you have the appointments and you can't get clients, we can talk about that. The best part about tracking all these numbers is it will help you identify where in this process you need to improve. Is it a habits issue, i.e., are you spending the right amount of time? If not, we need to change your habits, right? If you are not able to go from conversations to nurtures, maybe that's an attitude thing. Maybe you're coming off commission breathy and no one wants to give new leads to people who are desperate, right? Maybe the conversion from nurtures to appointments is a knowledge issue. Maybe you don't know what value to provide to nurtures in order to get them to want to work with you, so we can work on that. And then maybe appointments to clients is a skills issue. How, to sit down at a table and convince someone to spend $15,000 to $20,000 to hire you, that requires some skill. And so every single point, if your numbers ever get off track, we can really start to dive in a very granular way and do exactly what you need to do to become more successful. And once you get those clients, one of the things that most people don't do is they do not come up with systems and checklists. They don't come up with ways of making the process easier for themselves every single time through. And by the way, your first client what's the likelihood that you had everything together? I know for my first client, it was a not disaster. I just knew I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Like you come out of real estate school and they don't give you a system for how to do real estate. You have your real estate license and you know what a contract is, maybe. You know that a source of water is required in every single Colorado real estate transaction, but know what an Armbrust or Kaplan or wherever you took your real estate school actually told you how to manage a transaction. So how much easier would it be the second time around if you wrote down everything that worked and everything that didn't work, and then came up with a better plan the second time around? I think one of the most interesting things that happens in special forces in our military is the habit of what's called an after action review. And it's called an AAR. And those who are veterans on this call can correct me if I'm wrong right now. This is your shot. But an AAR or after action review is something that happens after every single mission. The platoon, the team will get back to, they'll go out, they'll come back, and they'll go through the plan and they will see what worked, what didn't work, and they will basically come up with learning lessons and what we should do and how we should change so we can get better the next time. Because if you're going out to war and let's say you didn't do so well at something, don't you want to learn from that mistake so the next time you go out there you don't get smoked? Probably. Why would we want to be any different in our business? And so one of the most important things that you should start doing, if you haven't already done it, is come up with systems and checklists, right? So every new client you get should not trigger a guessing game. You don't want to be saying, okay, I got this house in Lakewood. It's a little bit different from that house I was doing in Castle Pines. So let me think about this one. Like, what does Lakewood need? What does Castle Pines? No, forget about it, right? Sellers, buyers, they all typically need the same things, right? So for our team, there's always a process that gets kicked off. You get the listing signed, great. You schedule a walkthrough with your clients, you can do your dad walk, great. Once you do the dad walk, you know what the home needs, then you can schedule your vendors, like your cleaners or your handymen or whatever they need. Then you can schedule your photographers. Your photographers come out a certain time because we want to make sure we have the photos before we go live. We always go live a week before, coming soon, a week before we go live, because you want to maximize your exposure on MLS. When we go live on MLS, we have a specific process that we do for every single listing. So that way we know our open house schedule, we know our prospecting schedule, we know everything at least a month in advance. How much easier would it be for you to manage your calendar, maybe spend a little bit extra time with your family, maybe go out there and play that round of golf or go ski a little bit, if you knew a month in advance what your open house schedule was going to be? I feel like you could probably work around that a little bit. So if we take a new listing, why don't we do that? It would make your life easier. It would make your clients' lives a lot easier. So that way they're not wondering, they're not wondering about Corey the Great or Corey the Guide anyway, but Noah Werner, I don't know what Noah's doing. But Noah, if you were able to tell your clients, hey, we're having an open house these weekends, and it's a month in advance, so plan your dinners, plan your schedule, plan whatever, and this is all the dates and times. Oh, wow, what a great experience. So the benefit of systems and checklists is not so that it saves you time. There's another benefit in that it also provides better customer service. Because when you're organized, it will translate to how you communicate with your clients. This is how we do it. This is why we do it. We're going to do it now. Let me know if you have any questions, and we're moving on, right? So systems and checklists should trigger a process for you, and that process should make it so it's not a guessing game. That will save you time. It will eliminate mistakes. It will increase your customer service scores. And by the way, if we provide better customer service, what does that typically lead to? More leads. If you give someone the best experience ever, don't you think they're going to become a fan of yours and tell everyone about how amazing you are? Absolutely. So why would we not want to take this opportunity to then leverage what we're doing right now in terms of serving this client, because we know this client is going to lead to our next 2 or 3. So before we move on, I just want to give you guys a couple new systems. This is how we track our buyer system. There's an intake call. We always make a lender intro. That's always very important for us as part of our buyer system because we don't want to work with buyers who can't financially afford to transact, right? We have a specific way that we set up the MLS. We then have multiple consultations, weekly updates, and then we go through to an offer and transaction checklist. On the seller side, once again, it's all kind of the same thing, right? We have a listing consultation. We actually then, after we take the listing, we have pre-listing prep. That prep will translate to a marketing plan. Once we have the marketing plan, we then set forth weekly reporting. We go into offer negotiation, and we have a full system for post-client follow-up. By going through this process, and by the way, I'm not giving it all to you, this can get detailed as you want, right? If you want our checklist, send me an email. We've put them together over the last 2 weeks. I'm happy to share them with you, right? But going through this process makes it so that you know exactly what you're doing the next day and the next day, and so that you can't ever break that appointment with yourself because you're too busy. If you took that listing last night, you know exactly what your week has to be for that listing. Don't you think you can work around 2 hours of lead gen? If you took the listing last night, do you need to drop everything? Is it going to take you 8 hours the next day to schedule a walkthrough with your client so that you then know what else needs to happen at this home? Probably not. So you can't use new clients as an excuse to not lead gen. It doesn't work. At the end of the day, the fewer decisions you have to make, the more deals you can handle, right? If we're not trying to figure it all out, put it all together, all on the fly, that creates a more efficient process. Efficiency creates time. Time creates the opportunity to either find more deals or minimize our stress. At the end of the day, that's leverage in action. Those people who are doing 10, 20, 30, $40 million a year, they have the same amount of time in their year as you do. The difference, though, is that they're making fewer decisions. Everything is automated. There's a process. There's follow-up. And so as a result, their system can just handle more volume than if you're having to do everything else bespoke. I'm not a fashion guy, as you can tell. And I imagine that there's a difference, right, in Coach. Like, I think Coach puts out millions of purses or whatever a year, right? And there's probably Birkin or something like that, right? Where it's like super bespoke, whatever. Yeah, okay, maybe there are times that you want a Birkin bag or something like that. 99% of the time, Coach is going to be great. Coach is a great brand. And so you want to be building yourself a system that can handle as much as you possibly can, because that's where the market is. The market is in the section where every single deal will typically look the same. And once you do that, everything follows the same process and you're moving forward. So once we have all this time, we have all this amazing stuff, the issue goes back to, okay, Jared, what do we do? So I can now lead gen more effectively because I have a system for how I handle my buyers and sellers and how I communicate with them. I now have a morning routine so that by the time I'm out of this morning routine, I am fired up and ready to go. All right, cool. So how do we stay in touch with people? This is a 47 touch relationship engine that we propose at Blue Pebble. The 47 annual touches are 24 emails a year, right? So 2 emails a month. There are a number of studies out there saying that the more you email actually creates a vision of the person receiving that email that you are an expert in the field. It's not about what's in your email. It's not about what you say. It can't be bad, but like it's simply not about what you say. It's really just about seeing your name pop up in their inbox a lot. So the emails, the content doesn't matter. Just send them out. Seeing Corey Williams in your inbox will trigger that name in those people's minds. Oh, Corey the realtor. Got it. Okay, I'm going to call Corey the next time I do it. Emails are meant to be there just to remind people that you're in the business. We would always say send out 12 mailers or 12 postcards or something, right? However you want to do it, totally cool. The mailers go to fridge time. There's a reason why people send out Broncos schedules. Maybe, I don't know about you, but I probably have like 3 of them I get a year from different title companies and whatever. The reason why you do that is because if you get your calendar on someone's fridge, they're going to see it every single day. And so for us, when we send out mailers, we typically want those mailers to be about something going on in the following month. So if we're sending out a May postcard, that May postcard will always be about June events. June will be about July. So that way the postcard stays on there for at least 60 days. And by the time it comes off the fridge, there's already another one backing up. So if your postcards can always plan a month out, you will get more fridge time, you will get more recognition. We still have people talk to us about postcards that we sent out a few years ago. It only takes 4 calls a year. That's all it takes, maybe up to 6. And by the way, this isn't always prospecting. It could be, how's the family? How's the job? How's the vacation? What are you up to these days, right? It's just checking in and seeing how it can be helpful. The one thing I would say, though, is for every single call you make, you got to have an item of value. So either invite them to an event, offer a coupon through a vendor, maybe a network connection that could benefit them. You can't just call saying, hi, my name's Jared with Blue Pebble Homes. I'm in a referral competition at my brokerage, and I'm just curious, who do you happen to know from church, school, or work who's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? You can't do that. You can do it once. If you do it twice, no one's ever going to pick up your phone call again. So think about all those Northwestern Mutual people you've ever met as part of networking. You don't talk to them anymore because they shove your LinkedIn in front of you and say, who do you know? Build relationships through Ford, family, occupation, recreation, dreams, deliver value through events, networking, and coupons, and I guarantee you your relationships will expand and you will get more referrals. 4 events a year. It doesn't need to be crazy. It could just be as simple as come to the dog park. I will bring treats and coffee. We'd love to have a good time with you. Notes. Send a happy birthday card, handwritten, and then send one more note for gratitude to everyone in your database. So I think it's a birthday card. Happy birthday, Corey. And then sorry, Corey, you're like right in front of my screen, so I'm picking on you right now. But yeah, and then the other card is going to be, hey, Corey, it's Jared. I just want to write you today because I'm thinking about you, and I just want you to know how grateful I am that you're in my life and how great it is to work together. And not meaning anything, I just would love to see you for a cup of coffee. Shoot me a text. We'd love to get together soon, right? That one handwritten note is going to go so long. Just think about it yourself really quick. When was the last time that you got a handwritten note of gratitude from anyone? And when you did, how did you feel about that person? How would you like it if you had 400 people in your database feeling that way about you? That would be pretty cool. All right. Why this works. You stay top of mind. You build trust because you're actually trying to build relationships. You're not just trying to sell. And it makes your referrals more predictable because once you track your numbers and once you stick to a system, after doing this for a few months, you will start to get real data that you can then start to adjust and then adjust your system, right? But if you don't have a plan and you're not tracking your data, you have no predictability around your business. And predictability at the end of the day is what generates income because we don't want to be on the roller coaster. And so without nurturing our database, without doing these things, it's impossible for us to predict what's going to happen. So this is what we're going to do. Here's your 3-step challenge to double your production over the next 12 months. And these habits will allow it for you with almost a certainty. Make sure you time block 2 hours of lead gen a day. You got to do it. It has to be every day. You got to lead gen. You can call your friends. You can go door knock. You can go networking coffees and networking appointments, whatever it is, but you got to do something. Use checklists for every client. So that way it's not just a guessing game. You get a lot more efficient. And you got to commit to a 47, there's a typo there, at least a 40 touch plan, right? Do it multimedia, do it consistently, and you're going to see a huge difference in your business. And I'm going to leave you with this. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. So while we all have this great vision that we talked about an hour ago about where we want our business to be, at the end of the day, we can't wish our business into that. We have to do things. We have to put things in place that will protect us and ensure that we are successful. And those are our systems. So if you want to double your production, build some systems, stay consistent, it's time on task over time. And I really appreciate you guys dialing in for this. So we've got a couple extra minutes. Are there any questions about anything that we've talked about today? Is that it? Stumped you guys all? Speechless? Sweet. Well, hey guys, I really appreciate it. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Very happy Thanksgiving here. If you have any questions about anything that we're doing, feel free to shoot me an email or a note. Happy to talk to you about it. And I wish you guys all the best and go double your production. Talk to y'all soon.
Thanks, Jared.
Thanks, buddy.
Nice work.
Bye, Jared.